Hey guys, thanks for stopping by my new POE video. In this one, we're gonna get into the 320 prep season. We've got the league dropping in just a week. It's gonna drop next Friday, 8 o'clock, my local time. So we've got about a week to go over what my build will be, get my loot filter sorted, and plan out my item progression, and also what characters I'll be playing to progress into past my league starter. So yesterday, on Thursday night, we got the reveal stream for the new league, the Forbidden Sanctum. We got the usual content output that GGG have started introducing their leagues by. So we get stream reveal. After this, we got the Q&A session with Ziggy, and we also got the patch notes released just after the live stream ended. So in this video, I'm just gonna go quickly through the patch notes. I'm not gonna read through the entirety of the patch notes. I've done that last night. I slept on them, and I've had another cursory look through the notes, and I've just selected a few things, a few key points that stood out to me personally. Obviously, when it comes to patch notes, I think it is very personal to the content creator that does present them. Some people try to, go over the patch notes in their entirety and to try to, suss out what the major interaction changes are, what new powerful uniques will be introduced, and just try maybe get like an overview look over everything. Some other content creators choose to present the patch notes from the perspective of what builds they enjoy playing and what sort of content they enjoy creating. So I'm gonna take the second approach, and I'll just quickly note the things that I think are relevant to the playstyle and the builds that I personally enjoy playing. So the first thing that stood out to me is the introduction of a new Vow version of Caustic Arrow. Now, I enjoy chaos damage overtime bow builds. I've played, probably that's the archetype that I've played the most in previous league. I've done pure Caustic Arrow builds a long time ago, and then after the introduction of the other one, what was the name of the other one? Brain Freeze. Yeah, the other big popular bow skill that you'd use in conjunction with the ballista support. So you do, Toxic Rain. Toxic Rain is the one I was thinking about. So Caustic Arrow plus Toxic Rain. So now, if Vow Caustic Arrow depends what it's gonna do, because we don't know the mechanic. We know that the only thing they've told us is there's gonna be a Vow version, but what it will do, we don't know. Because some Vow versions of certain skills do exactly the same thing as a regular skill, but at a much higher damage. Some other skills too, they have completely different function. So it remains to be seen what type of skill Caustic Arrow the Vow version would be. So it may be interesting to use it in a bow archetype. The next thing, introduced the Fracturing Orb, which can be used to fracture a random modifier on a rare item with at least 4 modifiers locking it in place. This can be used on influence, synthesized, or fractured items. Introduce Fracturing Shard, which cannot be used in their shard form, but automatically transforms into the Fracturing Orb when they reach their maximum stack size. I believe that these types of currencies should be dropping from Harbingers. So that definitely buffs how useful the Harbinger mechanic would be. So I think it would be really, it's already good to invest in it onto the Atlas passive tree. But now with the introduction of Fracturing Orb, which I think it takes that function from Harvest and allows the type of currency that you'd use in Harvest for the Fracture craft, it allows it to be if you still want to use harvest, you can find a different use for that specific currency. So I think that's a really good change for the SSF playstyle, which obviously is my main playstyle. I enjoy SSF primarily. So I'm quite happy about that change. Added 2 new Atlas memories themed around domination and bestiary, which include the new beastcrafting recipes. Now, that leak, I definitely wanted to try out a different Atlas tree, so I'll be making, once we get the updated version, I'll be making just a deep dive video of what I want my Atlas tree to be exactly during the different levels of progression. So I'll plan out a few different trees, but I definitely wanted to do to include Einhar and beast hunting in my Atlas strategy, at least at some point during the league. So getting new beast crafting recipes is quite good for that. Obviously, it adds to the arsenal of recipes that you have at your disposal. Plus, they're adding domination memories, which I think that I'll definitely be using domination in my progression strategy as well. I'll be investing points into the tree, into the domination nodes. So these Atlas memories are definitely quite a welcome addition. Now, next thing, Maven Witness map bosses now have a chance to drop Awakened Gems, inclusive of the Awakened Gems that are typically exclusive to Maven herself. This is a massive SSF boon, because now, while you're doing your Maven progression, even before you can, obviously fight Maven herself, you still have got a chance to get Awakened Gems, which you can use to reroll either your starter character or create a completely new character that can make use of these Awakened Gems. So that's quite good for SSF, because I think it will increase the opportunities that you have for rerolling new characters. The following maps have been added back to the Atlas now. Generally, I know that that's not the optimal way to play, because ideally you'd want to make sure that each map that you want to run has got useful divination cards or useful specialty item classes that drop in it. But I generally choose which maps I run primarily based on their layout. If it's an enjoyable map to run, I'll run it, even if it doesn't have any of the above things that I mentioned. So Academy and Bazaar, they're okay, I suppose. Nothing great, but they're not too bad either. Burial Chambers, some people love the layout. I would say, yeah, it's a pretty good linear layout. So, and that would be a good addition as well. Cage, I like that map. Channel is okay. City Square, great map for so many different strats that you can do. It's got multiple bosses, so you can use in shenanigans with some sort of effect that involves maps having multiple bosses. That's quite good. Courthouse, probably no. Courtyard, also no. Coves is alright. Estuary, no. Forbidden Woods, no. Graveyards, it's okay, I suppose. Haunted Mansion, definitely no. Iceberg is good. Infested Valleys, okay. Ivory Temple is okay. Lookout is alright. Plus, I guess if the map bosses still drop the shield that you use for the Warcry build, if they still drop it, that would be quite a good way to farm it. Mineral pools, definitely no. Primordial blocks, really. Sepulture is okay. Shipyard, okay. Spider Lair, it's not too bad, but still not the best layout. Sunken City, definitely no. Toxic Shore is great. Volcano is okay. And the following maps have been removed from the Atlas. Arena, yeah, that can go. Arid Lake can go. Armory can go. Barrows can go. I actually like Belfry. Bramble Valley, yes please. Cells, yes please. Chateau, yeah, it's not a great map. Dick, same story. Excavation, it's alright. Fungal Hollow, that one I actually enjoyed running. Jungle Valley, yeah, definitely, that would be missed. Lava Chamber, that can go. Marshes can go. Mud Geyser, that was okay. Park, that was definitely a good map. Pen, that was a good map. It had some decent divination cards in it as well, so we need to find where we can get them. Race course, I enjoy doing. Cramparts, so Stagnation, yeah, that can go. Summit, that can go. Vote, that can go. Waste Pool was good. Waterways was okay. And Wharf. Okay, so we got some good maps. We lost some good maps, so I suppose it's good to get, every few leagues to get different maps to run. I don't enjoy particularly just one in the same map. So as long as you've got a few, good layouts, I'm happy. So let's move on to the next thing. This specific currency, Scarab and Divination card rewards will be split. Oh yeah, so that was the bit where they were going all over the changes for authors. They will be split so that they are exclusive to one author type. This means that if you're targeting a specific reward type, you'll be able to figure out which influence type to invest into in order to farm that reward. That's great. Anything that gives you, some deterministic input into what you're farming, I think it's good, especially in SSF when you are self-reliant and you need to find the resources you need by yourself. So I like the change. Generally, what the gist of the changes is, I haven't really farmed authors too heavily, but from what I understand, they have been nerfed a little bit. Some general things are that there will be less monsters being spawned by each author, but there will be more authors. But the rewards have been somewhat nerfed from what I understand. But because I've not experienced authors in their, previous state, I wouldn't be really a good judge of how much they've been nerfed. So I can live with the changes, but the fact that you can choose which influence you're farming, I think that's a good addition to the game. Right. We want to improve the concept that the Atlas tree allows players to invest into leagues that they enjoy, and have added new clusters to the passive tree for league content that can be blocked through Atlas passive skills. We've also increased the chances for such league content to appear. So that sounds like a boost to me. So basically, yes, what they're saying is that they're removing some of the Atlas passives connected with bossing, things like things that basically gave you a benefit if you spec into them when you're doing bosses. Instead, what they've done is they've removed the passive, but they have, I don't know what the extent of the inclusion will be, but they have included the benefit part into the core boss mechanics. So depending on how well they have merged it with the baseline of the boss mechanic, that's gonna really determine how good that change is. But from what I see here, it basically translates in us being able to run more of a map focused tree for most of the time, and we'll have greater access to league mechanics. In addition, we've added a new keystone passive that causes scarabs used in your map device to provide increased pack size rather than their usual modifier. I like this change because I always end up in a situation of having a lot of scarabs that I'm not interested in running. Things like just scarabs that give you a mechanic that you just do not want to run. And I know that you can. There is a 3-to-1 or 5, I think it's a 3-to-1 recipe that you can use 3 different scarabs to turn them into a random scarab. But then you're not guaranteed that you'd get a good scarab either, and you lose 3 scarabs, 3 of your input scarabs that you use to get 1 output scarab, which may not even be good either. So in that way, you get to use them for additional pack size, which I think is really good. Duos and ailment mitigation. The gist of the changes is that you get much easier ailment mitigation through duos. You can roll, I think all the duo mitigation qualities are suffixes, so potentially I was doing just like rough math, and I got that in ideal circumstances, if you manage to get 2 suffixes that give you ailment mitigation of some sort, with 3 duos, you'll be able to get mitigation to 2 separate ailments, which is quite good, I would think, because we still do have other sources for ailment mitigation, so they're just expanding our pool of tools that we can use to get, to make up for some ailment mitigation that we haven't been able to get on the rest of the gear. So I like that change, except for freeze. Yeah, the freeze wasn't included in the ailment mitigation things that you can get ailment mitigation for, but for freeze you've got Pantheon and you've got the rest of the gear, obviously. Another thing, unique jewels availability greatly reduced through drops, but also new recipes which you have to find out. And now GGG have mentioned this exact wording, another more deterministic source when it came to a few different, I think it was the Golem jewels and a few different unique jewels. So we don't know what that more deterministic source is, so until that gets revealed, I can't really comment whether this is a buff or a nerf. Another thing that I noticed when it comes to unique jewels is that they've added a change to how ancient orbs work. So now you're not going to be able to use them on jewels. I think it was on flasks and maps, but the big one is the jewels, because I thought first with the change that they want to get jewels to be much rarer, naturally you'd, especially if you're in SSF, you'd be dropping less jewels. So my plan at first was to use ancient orbs on jewels and try to get one which is potentially, build enabling, or a jewel that could, start me on the path of thinking about a potential reroll. But that's not going to be an option. So I think that they really want to make sure that jewels do remain rare. I mean, good jewels do remain rare, which was obviously the basis of why they wanted to get that change, which we'll see how it will play out. Potentially, it may make attaining, acquiring jewels do really to make it feel rewarding and like a proper dopamine hit. So we'll see how it will feel in League when it starts next week. With that said, there were some unique jewels that were still useful for a subset of players because they had built enabling modifiers or any other very niche users. Instead of getting rid of these, we've made them corruption only unique jewels. Now this is quite, at first I thought that was bad, but after I thought about it, my conclusion is that actually gives you a way, obviously it's a gamble, it's not super deterministic, but it gives you some way to deterministically gamble for a jewel that you potentially want by just corrupting jewels of that base type of the unique that you're looking for. We feel that this benefits for both players who want them and players who don't, as generally players who don't want them won't come across them as core drops, and players who do want them can still actively pursue them. I mean, that was the same situation with back in the days when Archmage was meta. There was one unique corruption only duo, I forget the name of it, I'm really bad with names, so you have to excuse me. But basically what it did is, because it was a build that was using Archmage, which basically gives you extra lightning damage based on how much mana you're spending, the build that was running it was a really mana intensive build, so it would stack a lot of mana on the tree, and then it would get some crazy cost of the skill that they were using. It usually was the brand archetype that did that build. And there was one specific jewel which increased significantly the mana cost of the skill of any skill that you use. So that was a jewel that you really wanted to get in order to maximize the damage of your build, and it was corruption only. And I think that was a really nice chase process. Keep corrupting jewels until you get the one that you want. I did enjoy that. It remains to be seen, what the probability of getting, what the way things for getting them are. If they are, incredibly rare, it may get a bit jarring, just using vow orbs. But on the other hand, you come to a point in the league where you've got very high access to vow orbs on the one hand, and just jewels that you can corrupt after a specific time. So I think that's a good change generally. Solution, we have removed both of these penalties. Okay, that's the hex and curse part of the manifesto. So what they've done is they've removed the penalties that they were like hidden penalties to both hexes and curses against rare and unique monsters. So what they've done is they've removed these penalties, and that's why pretty much every content creator that has put out videos on that change, they've said that's a buff, and this specific part is a buff. But what I've seen, actually, let's go in here. Where is the curses? Okay, curses. So yeah, they say that they're removing those penalties. So there were 33 for rares and 66% respectively for unique. So you get more effective your curses against these types of monsters. But what I've seen down the line is, okay, where is this bit? There was one bit where they were giving, oh, there it is. So look, for example, elemental weakness now causes cursed enemies to have -15 to all elemental resistances at gem level 1, previously 20. Now the disparity at level 20 of the gem is, the current value is -30, it used to be -39. So they've removed the penalty to bosses and rares, but they've also nerfed the base of the curses. It's not all curses, but it's quite a few. Obviously, all the elemental ones. Punishment, that has been nerfed quite heavily. They've removed 10% of overkill damage from killing blows on cursed enemies, which is reflected to other enemies as physical damage, which I think was a huge part of why that curse is used. It's not super popular, but I think that people that do use it definitely use it for this part. I think that makes it a lot more useful. Now they're just taking that line out altogether. They've done the same with vulnerability. They've removed the bit where it said that it basically what it does now is that it still increases the damage taken by enemies, but it removes the part where previously it would help speed up the basically any ailment that you inflict on the enemy. Vulnerability would make it so that it would deal damage faster, which was a pretty significant multiplier for your damage if you were doing. Oh no, it wasn't. I think it wasn't all element. It wasn't all ailments. It was just for bleeding. So basically, if you're using vulnerability and you have a bleed build, you have been gimped pretty badly now. So if you're thinking about doing a bleed build, probably not the best league for that. So the point I was trying to make is that I can't really decide whether it has been a buff, a nerf of curses, or if things are at the same level. I'm sure that people will crunch the numbers and will get a clear answer, but at that point I'm really not sure. They've done also a few other changes. Basically, when it comes to automating curses, automated curses have become less effective, which I think is a good change, because automation gives you a lot of utility. So I think you should be paying some price for automating your curses. So I do agree with that change. They have also shifted some sources of increased curse effectiveness. They have shifted them from sources like cluster jewels. They have removed some notables that used to give you increased effect. They have moved them now to the tree. So again, I think the power of curses may, even if it doesn't go up when it comes to to getting really high levels of investment, I think you'd essentially keep the level, but you'd be getting the effectiveness from different sources than you used before, and the sources will become available much earlier. So I personally think, I'm not sure if that's correct, but my gut feeling tells me that it will make curses more accessible early on, and it will be good for bossing because you would have more effects on the bosses. But again, somebody will need to crunch the exact numbers and come up with a clear answer. But generally, I think that is above. If you're not super min-maxing things, it's above for more casual players. Right, strike skills. I did plan on having melee league start at some point, and that's why in the Endless Delph event that took part recently, I played Bone Shatter Slayer because I wanted to feel out how a league starting with melee would feel, and it did feel amazing. But what they have done, especially, I think that it affects Bone Shatter very much, and I did see Karn's video. For those of you who don't know who Karn is, he's the guy that mains Bone Shatter Slayers, and you need to check out his video. Basically, it's a very short 30-second video where he just shows his frustration with that specific change, which is so they've moved one notable to become a mastery, and they have taken out the mastery that used to be that mastery in the current iteration of the game. So, which replaces the strike skills target additional enemies can do so from 30% further away. This mastery used to give you a lot of quality of life, and I would probably, I don't have that much experience in melee because I've only played the build once, but I've been shown from other content creators and from watching their videos, I've been given to understand that this specific interaction basically made builds like Bone Shatter possible. It gave them so much quality of life. I don't know if Bone Shatter is dead now, but I would definitely not be starting with it. Separately, Lightning Strike got mega nerfed. Both projectiles nerf and separate elusive nerf, because a lot of pretty much all of the builds that use Lightning Strike could use elusive. So there were two changes that nerfed elusive. So that build got mega nerfed. Also, Helix was significantly nerfed. So although it's Helix for many people is just a starter skill, I think it will feel very underwhelming, at least much less, overwhelming as a starter skill. So I don't know if people will probably try to find another meta for leveling melee characters, but these changes definitely made me reconsider starting as melee. So that is pretty much off the table now. We've changed the outcome odds for Tainted Orbs of Fusings to be more favorable to match where they were in Scorch League. Now, for me as an SSF player, depending on what the actual numbers for this change are, this is a really good change, because that may make it so that getting an early 6 link becomes much less accessible. Getting a 6 link has been nerfed in certain ways. Recently, although it is still very, very much attainable, but I think if the numbers for this change hit right, it will become much easier to get a sync link, and that will speed up SSF progressions quite a lot. Again, it may not happen depending on what the probability of getting 6 links through that methods are. But we'll see when people do crunch number for that one on the league start as well. And the last thing I wanted to go over is the Kirak mods. So Reddit thinks that this is the worst set of mods that they've got in a long time. I, however, would disagree. Yes, essence is out of the tree, but you'd still be if you invest in your tree, you'd still be getting essences for just completing maps. And in my opinion, specifically, essences are used maybe 2 or 3 times. You'd have 2 or 3 crafting sessions to get a character up to being, T16 ready. I think you can even do it in 2 different sessions. So you can still easily amass essences by just getting the 1 or 2 essences per map. Even without the extra essences from using the Kirak option, you'd still be able to amass essences, even in SSF. So I think that would still be useful. Yes, there may be, it will take you longer if you're unlucky with your crafting and you need to get more and more essences. It will take you probably longer to farm it, but you'd still get there eventually. Now, Anarchy. Now, area is inhabited by 2 additional rock exiles. It's not something I would use all the time. Probably it would be just used in some niche strategies, depending on your Atlas tree, because you can do some shenanigans. I've never done them myself, but I've heard from other players, from other content creators who have commented on it. There is some funky stuff that you can do with exiles, and this is just 2 chaos. Now the big one for me is domination for 3 chaos. I will be including shrines in my strategy for progressing the Atlas tree, at least my initial strategy before I transition into something more endgamey. But the strategy I would use during the stage when I'm just completing the Atlas definitely would have boxes, shrines, etc., and essences. And this gives you 3 additional shrines for 3 chaos orbs. That's more experience, more drops, plus if you're using the unique helmet, the Go, which gives you, I think it was more effect of the buffs that you get from shrines, plus you can get more effect from shrines on the tree as well. Those 3 additional shrines are gonna definitely make your character more powerful and will help into the early transition phase of building up your first character. Breach, I suppose it's good if you want to use any breach strategies, if maybe you want to farm some of the breach boss uniques, which potentially I may be doing, because I think the build that I want to do will require 1 breach unique, but I need to double check it. But either way, 4 chaos. If you want to farm breach, you can either use that, maybe you can use scarab. So there is a lot of different ways beyond. That may be useful if the aforementioned buff to tainted orbs fusing is significant. That may be quite lucrative to do, at least at the start when you want to get your 6 link. Beyond that point, pun not intended. Beyond that point, I suppose if you enjoy the playstyle, it gives you easy source of getting beyond on your maps without having to roll for it. So I suppose that's good. Harbinger for 6 chaos. 3 additional Harbingers. That is useful for SSF. So, but I don't even know if I would get to the point where I'll be investing over 5 chaos for my adding Kirank mission on the maps. Delirium for 10 chaos, that could be used for ritual. 13 chaos, definitely not. I think I'll be doing ritual, but I definitely do not be using the map device to spawn it to my maps. That is much. I mean, you can just invest into your Atlas tree in ritual, and you'd get. Obviously, it won't be guaranteed, but it will have a high spawn percentage. So if you want to do rituals, just invest into your tree, I would say. So this is my initial reaction to the patch notes. In terms of the leak, it sounds really cool to me. There is a few things that I noticed that personally stood out to me. The first thing was it had a lot of Diablo 1-esque feeling with the fact that there were different floors. There were 4 different floors into the Sanctum that you needed to progress through each floor, kill bosses and then progress to the next floor, which basically was what Diablo 1 was. You'd go into a cathedral and then just descend the floors and progressively kill, harder monsters. So that's a pretty cool head nod to Blizzard. Definitely enjoy that aspect of it. In terms of previous Path of Exile leaks, I think there was some resemblance to Synthesis in the sense that you have to, plan your route, choose what rewards you want to get. Obviously, we don't have to, play about with the map. The map is already pre-generated. You just need to choose which rooms you go into. It also, to me, bears resemblance to Ritual, with the fact that again you're choosing what rewards you're getting. You're choosing whether you want to gamble the rewards and leave them for collection after you defeat the boss or complete the current floor you're in. But then you also incur the risk of failing that attempt and losing those rewards. So I think that aspect is pretty cool. But again, with the new league, you can only see. You don't see the specifics of it. You don't know how it will be implemented, which for me personally is the thing that on which it will depend whether I would enjoy playing the league, whether I would find enough replayability potential. Because it may be something that you find cool at first, but then get really bored of it very quickly. So it remains to be seen whether it will be enjoyable. But on paper, it sounds really cool. I'm excited about the fact that unlike the last few leaks, which have the rewards have been crafting related, like Lake of Calandra, you could get the reflection shrines, so you can craft your items and gamble what outcome you get. Before this, we had recombinators, which again were very, they were essentially just a new crafting method that added to your tools for getting your items. But this one feels a lot like a leak where the rewards will be, currency focused. So I think that should actually, if it plays out that way, because I may be wrong, we don't know exactly what the rewards are, but if it plays that out, that should be a good replacement to heist if you're doing heist, especially for getting currency. Because for me personally, in SSF, that is one of the main uses out of heist. Yeah, at first you'd use it to get uniques you may be needing for your build. If you decide to start a build that relies on a couple of uniques, but after I acquired my uniques, I really never went for heavy grinds for alternate quality gems or alternate type equipment, which are build enabling. I've never really decided to put the time to get those I've always been quite simplistic about heist. I would just use it to get currency, more currency to, funnel into my mapping, more currency to funnel into crafting, etc. So if the leak mechanic is a good alternative for getting currency, I think that would definitely replace heist for me in that regard. And I may decide to use heist for its intended purpose, to get, the old quality gems and equipment at a later point of the leak. But that's pretty much it. We've gone through the points that I personally felt interested in. Now, I was thinking about what builds I'm gonna start. So one archetype that I was toying with was melee. I've done a test with Bone Shatter Slayer, as I said, during the Endless Day Off event. It went great, and I was definitely thinking that would be my potential start. But now with these changes, melee is just gonna be off the table for me. I know that the changes only affected strike skills, so potentially, the slam skills will probably still be good, but I just feel that that's not going to be the melee league. So another archetype that's always good, and I've not really seen anything in the current patch notes that nerfs it in any way, is minions. I mean, the cool thing about minions is that you can play them in so many different ways. You can do duration-based minions, you can do mass summoner, you can do so many different, you can do conversion minion builds. There is many different ways you can play a minion build, and even if you're using the same skill, depending on what items you drop, there is a chance for you to play it in different ways. So a build that I wanted to play again for a few leagues was Herald of Agony. I did plan to play it last league. That was my second reroll that I wanted to do, but instead I dropped some really good physical spell gear. So I did the Blood Gladiator Slinger archetype because I enjoy playing this build so much. So in the end, I never ended playing Herald of Agony, so I'm actually thinking about league starting that. So what I'm gonna do is I'll have a bit of a wander on POE Ninja, and I'm gonna see if I can get some inspiration about maybe doing another build. So I have a think about, and then I'm gonna do another video where I'm gonna show you the build that I've locked in, and I'm gonna go through how you're gonna progress it skill-wise through the campaign. Then once you get to maps, what your priority should be gear-wise. So we're gonna do, obviously I'm gonna go through the path of building file, and I'm gonna create an online like a Word file or spreadsheet that I'll make public, so you can, if you decide to go with the build that I will be league starting, you can use that as a base for your progression as well. So I would like to do one in-depth video on that, which hopefully would come out either today or tomorrow. And after we have done the video for the first character, I also would like to have a think about what other builds I would like to reroll, because I think especially in SSF it's useful to have a few different archetypes that you have at your disposal. So obviously you'd have your early league starter, but then it's a really good idea to have like a fast mapper or a magic find character, or if your league starter wasn't a bossing type character, it's good to roll a bosser as well. Now if I do end up with Herald of Agony, it is a pretty versatile build. It's good for mapping because it's not super quick, but it does have a lot of bossing capabilities. So And again, you've got, if you want to do it as an endgame bosser, you've got quite a few avenues that you can improve your build and transition into, again, Herald to Fagni, but into a different setup that would be, obviously much more expensive. So you need to do a lot of magic finding. But I think it would be pretty much doable in SSF if you have a good structure. And if you just stick to it for 3 months, you'll definitely be able to min-max that character. Now, the other character that I'm thinking about is, it's an archetype that I've wanted to do for many leagues, but I never got around to it. So it would be a tornado, some sort of tornado shot. It may be different scale that I decide on eventually, but it would be a bow character that is good at clearing maps quickly, doing some of the map mechanics well and quickly, and magic fighting. So for the basis of this, I am going to use one particular content creator's build. He's done very good and comprehensive videos on tornado shot, how you league started, how you then transition it into different levels of investment, and how you make it a really good magic finding character. Now, the content creator I'm talking about is, I do apologize in advance if I pronounce his name incorrectly, is Snoobay85, I believe. I'm gonna put the link to his profile in the description below. He's content creator that I really enjoy his videos. As I said, he's the bow mapper, high juicer, soft core trade enabled league guy, and if you're interested into that type of content, definitely check him out. His link to the channel would be down below in the description of my video. And what I wanted to do is, because obviously he approaches the puzzle of creating that character from a softcore trade approach. So what I've always felt is going to be a really good challenge is to try to get that archetype to work in an SSF scenario. It's not going to be a league start, because obviously to get the build started, I need a few uniques and a few other things. So I think that would be a really good reroll reroll 2. So that would be your second character. Once you've completed your Atlas, once you've got your Atlas tree ready, I think it would be a really good idea to roll that type of character and use it for you could use it just to amass currency, amass resources, use it to complete some of the, grandeur challenges, because, getting, I don't know if I'll manage to get 40, possibly not, but I'll try to get as many challenges as possible this season, and having a fast mapper in addition to a reliable bosser, I think, especially if you're in SSF and you won't be able to buy the challenges, I think having those two types of archetypes is essential. So I'll do a couple of videos. So I'll do, I don't know if it will be one video per character, or if it will be like a few shorter videos just to cover the archetype, but I'll do one for the Herald to Fagni guy and one for the fast bow mapper guy. We'll do a spreadsheet which will cover your initial leveling guide, and it will map out what priorities we should make for yourself once you hit maps. And when it comes to the second character, I'll try to lay out what things you need to have in place before you can reroll. So that's pretty much it for this video. I think I've been going on for a while, but I just wanted to cover all this stuff. And when it comes to a game as complex as Path of Exile, there's always something to talk about. I'm gonna cut the video here. Thanks for hanging out with me on my SSF journey. I'll see you in the next one, and keep grinding Exiles. Thanks for watching.